Today's topic is, what am I? One of the least understood errors in human thinking is the disconnection between the so-called self and the body. The common presumption in our culture is that the self is something inside the body controlling it. There is actually a sensation of me behind the eyes or in the center of the chest. This sensation is actually a contraction of energy. The body doesn't have a person inside of it directing its movements. Instead, it's an assortment of organs, tissues, bones, and fluids. However, the body is an integrated unit that is animated by energy flowing through it and stored within its cellular structures. The I, which we all use as a reference point when communicating with one another, is presumed to be something inside the body, when in fact the I is the body. The word I is a shortcut which saves us the trouble of having to say the words "this body" over and over again. Once this is found to be true, it leads to a real mystery, the mystery of who or what is forming my cells, digesting my food, and circulating my blood. These processes are going on all the time, and if I am these processes, I certainly don't know how I do them. So this is the part where I get stuck. The word doer implies control, and since I have no control over my involuntary processes, they are not me. This indicates a division between the me that has control and the me that seems to run by itself. Because I have learned not to identify myself as this body, I suffer from a bad case of poor nutrition because I choose to eat snack foods instead of the fruits and vegetables I require. To compensate for feeling crummy, I take drugs, which further dulls me out. The initial use of the pain relievers and recreational drugs I sample produce temporary relief from a plugged up and toxic body. But over time, the immune system is weakened and the ever-present bacteria and viruses take over. This miserable condition can often be reversed by acknowledging that I am the body, and my body thrives on a healthy diet combined with exercise and rest. As if by magic, the flow of God energy resumes and I feel much better. An experiment like this is a natural part of self-discovery. The next step is to find out how to be happy. Obviously, I'm completely dependent on food, water, and air, and to relationships with others. But what exactly is this dependency which is so important to well-being? One way to find out is to simply observe and feel the difference between having and not having these necessities. Clearly, there is a flow of something from outside me to inside me which may or may not even be visible to the eye. This is not a faith-based or religious leap, but simply using myself as a tool of discovery. This something which comes in through many channels is what I call energy, and this same energy flows into and is stored in the mitochondria of each cell and is the force of life itself. Without it, I can weaken and collapse. So simply by using my own power of observation, I can trace the life force from its origins outside to its destination inside. The more I study this interesting process, the more I realize that this invisible energy flows through me all the time, and all I have to do is make myself more available to it, if I want to be more alive and aware of my total self. This is where true religion or spiritual life enters into the picture. The last step in the game is to notice that the energy is everywhere, constantly changing itself from one form into another. The forms it takes are always arising and fading away, but the energy itself is always constant and eternal. Next topic is perception and attention. There is more to seeing than just a stream of light particles passing through the eye and entering the brain. There are other processes such as perception which result in an end product called understanding. As a child, I can see everything around me without understanding what it is or how to control it. So perception is recognition which grows from repeated experience. Therefore, I understand and I recognize because it happened before, and now what I see has meaning. Two people are watching an event and write down a description of what they see. Each description is different because each interpreted differently what was seen. The other tool we are born with and learn to develop is attention. Picture a beam of light in a dark room which illuminates a small area as it moves from one spot to another. It's a limited tool. The larger process of perception has to depend on it, and yet most of us operate through this viewpoint throughout our lives. A narrow beam of attention provides data to an interpretation device resulting in recognition. So recognition will always be restricted by the boundaries of attention. The waking brain is constantly generating holographic imagery accompanied by sound, which we call reality, while at the same time it examines minute proportions of it through this narrow focus. If you picture it this way, it almost looks like a feedback mechanism or a short circuit, or perhaps it's just a bit of nonsense. Given that we are born with these two items, attention and perception, to do with as we please, why not develop them into finely honed tools for mastering the art of awareness? The meditation people spend extended periods of time holding their attention steady so as to see what they are looking at more clearly. Without the benefit of such a practice, the attention wanders and provides only superficial glances of the world it illuminates. You can tell when this occurs because a conversation between two people will suddenly die as the attention of one wanders off on another subject. If the attention remains focused on only one subject or one item at a time, the data will continue to flow. The professional men and women with highly developed attention and perception skills have the advantage over the rest of us, and can often turn that advantage into fame and fortune. The more you see, the more you are able to anticipate and act appropriately as events unfold. The amazing feature of perception is that it continues to grow and interpret information in a new way. Instead of feeling trapped, you find solutions to problems that seemed hopeless earlier. You become aware of the play of opposites and see enemies as an extension of yourself. Instead of feeling out of control, you can change the outcome of a conflict, and with a slight shift in your own point of view, a problem becomes a challenge. Because of the nature of conscious awareness and perception, I've often wondered if the great spiritual leaders born on this planet were an example of this quality, raised to a degree beyond the boundaries of the common man, and from their larger view, everything that was obvious to them was a mystery to the rest of us. From an ordinary existence, they grew into symbols of authority and power. They became objects of worship. I still practice meditation, but it's mostly sitting quietly doing nothing up to an hour before I get out of bed. Breathing exercises, candle flame watching, mantras, prayers, mind and body cleansing, studying books of wisdom, keeping a diary, yoga exercises, walking, eating, healthy, following a path with heart, finding a satisfying job, creating a proper living space, all add up to a conscious existence as opposed to simply muddling along until your time is up. I know it makes a difference because I have lived both ways, consciously and unconsciously, for extended periods, and found that one leads to personal power and control while the other can lead to mediocrity and loss of self-respect. Religion and reason. There is a general agreement among Catholics that you reach the age of reason around 7. It's also around this time you receive your first Holy Communion and get your picture taken by your proud parents. The ceremony is a joyful event and indicates the membership in a belief system which offers support and guidance for the rest of your life. The program has been popular for centuries and seems to work on the surface, provided you desire the security it offers and don't question anything too deeply. The age of reason is also a time when something called logic or common sense that comes naturally for most boys and for fewer girls, depending on how you were brought up, begins to blossom. I can't tell you what logic is, but I do know that it is based on direct experience with the world and is not based on faith. The word faith means complete trust or confidence in something you don't know for certain. Logic and common sense are based on what you do know and can predict with confidence. Because these two are apparently at odds with each other, an extremely devout mother, short on logic and operating on faith, can make life difficult for her husband and sons. Quite often these differences in thinking remain hidden beneath the surface for a male child until puberty because, number one, you don't know enough to spot a statement doesn't make any sense, and number two, it's easier to simply pretend to be listening and file the statement away in a mental trash can. You also know from experience that challenging the authorities too often can lead to spankings and the loss of privileges. All things considered, it's much easier as a child to go along with a program you don't agree with to avoid trouble, and then, later on, as an adult, you can always re-examine the issues on your own terms. Next topic, show me your soul. One of the fundamental concerns in the Catholic tradition is the saving of the soul. A great deal hinges on one's belief in this hard-to-locate and hard-to-dismiss spiritual commodity. As a school child, I was always puzzled by the fuss the nuns made when this subject came up, and to this day, I still have no idea what it was all about. Clearly, there was a presumption of the soul on the one hand and a disturbing failure for me to believe on the other. I have been through this ghostly subject many times over the years, and I have discovered it always boils down to the same thing: belief. Once you accept the existence of your soul, you are obliged to learn more about it and all the complications of saving the soul which follow. The problem I have with this nonsense is the addition of one more item to the growing list of things that I am supposed to worry about. In some circles, the soul is just another name for the spirit. So why complicate things by renaming it the soul? Wasn't the spirit good enough? If I could actually see the soul in front of my eyes, then the discussion could go forward. But if no image appears, then there is nothing to discuss, and at least for me, life goes on without it. Let's talk about the use of symbols. One of the tricks that the brain has learned to accomplish when working with complex issues is the use of symbols. A symbol is a shortcut which speeds up the process of gathering and analyzing information. It represents or points to something else without that something else having to be explained each time it is mentioned. When the symbolic letter or number or logo is brought up, we know what it refers to. Like all great time-saving devices, symbols have become essential in every category of human affairs, including science and religion. The entire Christian belief system is represented by the crucifix, and the nuclear industry by the symbol of the atom. This method of communication, though efficient and easy to work with, has the potential for abuse and misunderstandings. In fact, it can lead to a loss of contact with reality altogether. The easiest way to demonstrate this is by praying to a crucifix or an artist's depiction of Jesus of Nazareth, the same as you would with a real person. If there is no answer, perhaps it is because there is no one there. It might also help the awakening process if you were able to observe the holy objects make the journey from the art studios to the holy stores. When I was a child, my mother used to bring her children to the holy store in downtown Gardner, Massachusetts, and let us pick out medals and crucifixes to wear that would protect us from danger and keep us pure. I really enjoyed wearing these symbols and believing in their power, but as I grew older, somehow they seemed less influential. Perhaps it was the numerous times bad things happened even when I wore them. As I grew older, I attached less importance to them and more on my own personal power.